In section 5.7, we talked about how to find the distance between 2 points using the distance formula. If you look at the top of your homework, the distance formula is the square root of the quantity x2 minus x1 squared plus the quantity y2 minus y1 squared. When you use this formula, you need two ordered pairs, and you need to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, just like we used to do when we found slope using the slope formula. Once you have your points labeled, you're going to take those numbers and plug them right into the formula that we were given. So we have a nice long square root, because that's what the formula looks like. You have the quantity, or a set of parentheses, squared plus another set of parentheses squared. Now, the things that go in the parentheses, first off, there needs to be minus signs. Okay? And now you want to plug in your numbers. So it's x2 and then x1. So my x2 value is -4. And then my x1 value is 2. And then it's y2, then y1. So then it's 3 and 5. Once you have your numbers plugged in, you want to simplify the math that's inside the parentheses. So we're going to drop everything down. We're going to make the long square root again. -4 minus 2 is -6. Bring down the squared, bring down the plus sign, bring down the parentheses. 3 minus 5 is -2. Drop down the squared. Okay. Once you simplify what's in the parentheses, the next thing you want to do is simplify the exponents. So I'm going to drop down my equal sign, drop down the square root symbol. -6 to the second power is 36, plus -2 to the second power is a +4. When you put these into your calculator, you need to make sure that you have the parentheses around them. So that's -6 squared is a +36, and a -2 squared is a +4. If you do not use parentheses, you will not get this correct. Once you have simplified the exponents, you add the two things underneath the square root. So 36 plus 4 is 40. And once you have the final number inside the underneath the square root, you want to square root it. So this is second x squared 40. And that's going to give us 6.3. The directions do say to round to the nearest tenth. So this gives me 6.3. Okay, now whatever whatever our units are, in this case it's just units, but say it was feet or inches, that would be 6.3 inches or feet. Let's take a look at number 3. I'm going to set up my square root, and I know that I need parentheses with squares, a plus sign, parentheses with squares, and then minus signs go in the parentheses itself. Okay, notice here I put the square root, the parentheses, the minus sign, the parentheses squared, the plus sign, the parentheses minus parentheses squared. This just helps me, or it makes it easier for me to just plug the numbers in. Now it's x2, then x1, whereas I did not label my points yet, so I'm going to do so real quick. So this is x1, x2, sorry, x1, y1, x2, y2, okay, and so now let's plug them into our formula. So it's x2, which is 9, minus x1, which is 5, parentheses squared, plus y2, which is 1, minus y1, which is -3. Okay, when you have a negative inside the parenthesis, especially if it's the second piece in the parenthesis, you want to make sure that you use an extra set of parentheses there. Okay, now let's drop down the square root symbol and let's simplify the math that's going on inside that parenthesis right there. So 9 minus 5 gives me 4 squared. Drop down the plus sign. 1 minus -3 is 4. Drop down the squared symbol. Once you simplify what's inside the parentheses, go ahead and simplify the exponents. So 4 to the second power is 16, plus 4 to the second power is 16. Drop down the equal sign, drop down the square root. 16 plus 16 is 16 plus 16 is 32. And the last step would be to second x squared 32, which is 5 point, now be careful if we're rounding correctly, this 5 will bump the 6 up to a 7. So this is going to be 5.7.